Welcome to the very first episode of Starkey Multifamily Podcast. I have with me today Grant Warrington. Grant shares with us his real-life struggles of getting to his first multifamily deal. Contrary to what many would have you believe, real estate investing is not easy money. It takes blinding dedication and hard work, both of which Grant demonstrates in his story. His first deal took 9 months from LOI to closing and had many pitfalls to overcome along the way. I truly believe this is an inspirational story as to what it takes to become successful in multifamily investing. And this is just the first of many apartments in his future. Good morning, Grant. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Reed. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. I'm extremely excited about this one. So thanks again.
Yeah, I'm really excited. You're a personal hero here for me. So it's kind of exciting to talk to you and kind of get your background. And it's really an exciting one. So let's get started. Why don't you tell me about your first experience with rentals and how that went?
Okay, I started back in, I started in my early 20s. I bought the Carlton Sheets tapes and, if you know who that is, and listened to all that, got excited. I read books. I was extremely interested in real estate. I knew that. I just didn't know anything really about it. I didn't get the information I needed, but in the early 2000s, they were handing out mortgages, and I decided I'd take 3 of them, and I got 3 rentals. And unfortunately, I paid way too much for them. I didn't have the knowledge, that I do now. I wouldn't have got into that situation now, but back to then, I paid too much. I wanted to try and be a friendly landlord is kind of what my goal was. I had these ideas that maybe around Christmas, I'd let people, maybe deduct rent. And, I had a lot of good ideas, I thought, at the time. Unfortunately, a few years later, what happened was everybody didn't pay. So just about everybody owed me about $5,000 each, which was unfortunate. So, in order to try and keep this rolling, I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have anything really to fall back on or give me any kind of advice. So I took a personal loan out on my house to try to pay the mortgage for these, on my personal house. I ended up just paying that off, a few years ago, to tell you the truth. So I carried that with me. So after all of this, I decided the only thing I could do was give it back, give them back to the bank. So I gave them back in great condition. I was the only one involved. The good news out of this, I was the only one involved in all these. I owned them all outright myself. No one else had a part, piece, or any money involved in the deal. So it was my learning experience. So to get out of them, I had to declare bankruptcy. And I ended up having to give them back. And, the other thing too, I'd like to point out too, is, at that time, my personal life wasn't in order either. I had some issues I needed to overcome. I needed to grow. And I'd like to say in 2011, I did overcome that. And, with the help of God, I quit drinking, which was, the point that my life changed. And I only say that just in case, sometimes, and I thought in the past that, how drastically could my life change if I quit drinking? Drastically. So that's why I bring that up.
Could you tell me if there was one moment that you decided to quit drinking, or an instant?
No, I'll tell you the truth. I pretty much knew my probably from when I was 18. I knew it was inevitable one day. But, it just came to 2011. It just was, 2 options. I either quit or don't. And I didn't want to face the consequences if I didn't, which wasn't anything, it was more of health issues. I wasn't in any trouble or anything like that. On the outside, I was doing fine. But on the inside, it was really taking a toll on me. So I, made that decision.
Awesome. So then you started cleaning everything up, and then you met your wife a few years later. So, and that
It seems to be a really good match. I mean, you guys work really well together.
Thank you.
And then, so then you guys started buying properties up yourself again.
Correct. Yeah. So when we met, 2014, she had a dream of owning Monica Warrington too. I know you know her, but just to let everyone else know, she's such a huge part of this business. I can't even. I mean, you know, Reed, you've met her and you see you know what she does in this business. But she's actually at the building now. Every time I do a podcast, it's funny, I say that every time because she's there all the time, but you know, and then I think, oh geez, what's it say about me? But no, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I met her in 2014. She had a dream to own a 10 unit, and we decided, well, let's buy a single family house because, you know, how could we ever get to a 10 unit? That's far in the distance. So we bought our first one. She ended up moving in with me. We bought it in 2014, end of 2014. So she moved in with me. We had 2 rentals then, the one we bought and her condo. And we were stuck right then, out of money. That was it. No more growth. We thought, well, you know, maybe in 5 years we could possibly somehow save up enough money to maybe have 10. That was kind of the goals we wrote out. And, you know, we look at it now and it's kind of funny, but that's all we knew. And we didn't know how we're going to save up the money. But, you know, and what happened was I ended up starting to go to meetings, real estate meetings. And I went to one night and she didn't go with me. She wasn't feeling well. So I went by myself and I ended up seeing a younger guy there, and he had a hoodie on and he was, you know, sitting down, and there was a bunch of older people all hovering around him that, you know, really wanted his attention and to talk to him. And he was talking with everybody. And I thought, wow, who is this? I need to talk to this person. And long story short, it ended up being Josh Sterling. So, which turned out really well for me.
Yeah.
So he basically has mentored me along the way. And, you know, Josh, owns a lot of real estate. So I was very fortunate, you know, meeting him. And, you know, the other thing that, you know, and Josh told me this a few years later, you know, us talking back and forth, he said, you know, I gave you like 5 things to do and you did them. And he's like, and that normally doesn't happen. And I guess I was just naive enough that I didn't know people don't do things people tell them to do, if that makes sense. I asked him, what did he do to get to the level he's at? And he told me. So I just did the things he said. I knew his time was valuable, so I didn't want to waste it. So I constantly tried to grow, but if I wasn't buying a house or doing things where I needed his time and attention, I did not take it up because I valued his time. And I tried to add value to him as well. So that's kind of where we were at with the first ones. And what happened was Josh told us we needed to get 3 free and clear. And once we got those 3 free and clear, and we did that by, you know, a personal loan. We did it by, personal loan, credit cards. We had an investor just out of the blue say, oh, well, I'll lend you money to buy that. You know, that was pretty amazing. And we got the 3 free and clear. You know, crazy debt is what we call it. Everyone calls it. We did some, you know, some crazy things to get that money. And we refinanced it into a blanket loan, and we got about $120,000. So to do that, to take that crazy debt on, it was very uncomfortable. Like I said, I had that bankruptcy, so I was of the opinion that I'm not going to get myself ever again in that position. So I'm not going to have any debt, which isn't a smart thing looking back. I should have established some credit with some credit cards. I should have done some things like that, but I didn't. I paid cash for everything. I thought this is the way to go from now on. So I really had to switch my thinking from good debt to bad debt. I didn't understand that, you know, these are assets, and major companies have debt. You know, there is a difference between good debt and bad debt. And once that clicked with me, you know, I said, okay, let's do it. Let's acquire these properties like we were told to do. Let's refinance them out, and that's what we did. And that was the first uncomfortable moment, you know, one of many. And the second would be when we got that money. I thought, this is great. All right, you know, we're real estate investors, Monique and I, and we don't need to be uncomfortable ever again. And I was wrong, really wrong, because then Josh said, you know, you're going to have to find investors now to purchase these properties for you. And you're going to have to, you know, you can do the rehab out of that money, but you can't buy 3 houses and do all the rehab on them with the $125,000. It's just not where we were looking to invest in, what we were looking to do with these properties. We do a little bit better rehab, which, you know, I know you and others do as well. We feel it attracts a better tenant, puts a better quality product on the market. So that was uncomfortable as well, because now I had to go to investors and really tell them what we were looking to do. The fortunate thing was, and I know, Reed, you're a big proponent of meetings, going to real estate meetings, and we happen to already know a lot of them. And they had watched us grow over the years and seen how we do business. And, you know, you and I met at a meeting years ago. So we had developed those relationships when I didn't really realize that's what we were doing. I just attended meetings. I talked to people and listened and tried to add any value if I could. And really, we had those investors already, and I didn't even realize it. Lined up, ready to go. We bought 3 more houses out of that. They purchased the property. We paid for the rehabs, and those 3 properties, I think it was about a 6.5 month period that we bought, rehabbed, refinanced, and paid them off for all 3 of them. That was the average, 6.5 months for all 3 of those. So it turned out really well. After that, you know, we kind of sat down and just, you know, I do want to go back and say the first 3 we bought, you know, initially, a few years back. I just want to touch on this, that, you know, when I was making that decision about debt and all of that, I also made a decision about what we have personally. And I decided to sell, you know, my truck, my boat, and my pool table to put a down payment down on a duplex in Wyandotte, a side-by-side duplex that we still own today. It was a major decision where, you know, these things were paid off, and I thought, I'm just going to keep these in, you know, forever. Why would I get rid of these things? And I had to, again, that clicked where, what are these doing for me, and where do I want to be in the future? They weren't really helping me get to where I wanted to be. So I made that decision. I sold those. That was another uncomfortable moment, you know, to do that. So again, sorry about that. I just wanted to go back and touch on that, because I think it's an important point for people that are maybe just starting out, that maybe they could evaluate where they're at, evaluate your expenses. You know, what can you cut out? What can you do? What can you sell? How important is it? You know, I like to say I'm patiently hungry. I'm hungry to grow and to really build this business, but I'm also patient, which I think are, you know, I don't ever want to push anything to try to make something happen.
I think that's a good point, you know, that you said about selling the boat and the truck and the pool table. You know, it's such a, you know, statement to your commitment, where you're all in, and you know that you're going to make it work no matter what cost, or, you know, the faith you had of taking out the crazy debt, like you said. Those are all big, scary commitments to make. And, you know, I don't know that a lot of people are aware that that is the commitment that it takes. But, you know, when you talk to anybody, at least that I've talked to, that has made it, they talk about putting everything on the line and really committing, not just saying they want to do it. We're not all born millionaires, so we have to do those crazy things and make them happen. So I think your story is really good because it hits on all those points.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, and like you said, we didn't have friends and family with, and ourselves. I mean, everybody, middle class, obviously, but we didn't have anyone saying, hey, here's a bunch of money, go ahead and do this. We really had to make that decision. If we really want to do this, we're all in. And we did literally burn the boats, and that was it. And we made the decision, in the beginning like that, I will do this until I'm 80 years old, no matter what the outcome. It doesn't matter if I get rich or not. This is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to do it for good. So we just developed that mindset. We learned as much as we could, and we basically copied. We found people that were successful. We asked them, followed them, and we basically copied what they were doing. We listened to them tell us some of the mistakes they made. We avoided those mistakes, and we just moved forward. And it's working out quite well. Now, I say working out because obviously we're not where we want to be. We have a lot more growth to go, but we're really happy and looking forward to the future.
So let's transition now to when you were doing the inspection, and we'll start at the very beginning of that 20 unit.
Okay, yeah, and that was I believe 2016 when that happened. So it was the property we bought. It wasn't the best property. It needed a lot of work. I learned a lot on that deal. And that was another point. I think that property and then that bankruptcy, I learned so much. I'd never trade those things in. They were, they're monumental in your life. And I wouldn't trade it because I learned so much. And, like the bankruptcy, it taught me how to deal with people, that I can deal effectively with people. And I can still get my point across, but I can still be compassionate and treat people with respect. And, to this day, our tenants, they're our customers. So I really value what I went through with that. But again, back to this other deal. And what happened was, we put a lot into it. I learned a lot from it. We got out of the deal, no problem. And it really wasn't that bad. It was just a big learning lesson. And I was getting it inspected, and I happened to be in the basement with the inspector. And I think we might have been looking at duplexes, a little bit bigger multifamily, threeplexes, fourplexes. We hadn't yet made that exact commitment to go all multifamily. So I just said, we're looking to buy some bigger properties, multifamily, whatever the conversation was. And he said, hey, call this woman. She owns a lot of property. She's upper 70s, I believe. She still works on her own properties. And she does own quite a few. And I got her number. I called her, and she turned me on to this 20 unit in Trenton. And she said they might be looking to sell. So I appreciate it. And I called him in 2017, early 2017. And he said, yeah, you know what? I think I might be looking to sell. So we took up negotiations, and all negotiations were done in his liquor store, which is pretty interesting. I thought it was a nice little side note. So it was the business he owned. So we negotiated, and we just couldn't come to terms on it. It was, for one thing, it was a lot bigger at that time that we thought we could do. I was still working, in construction at my previous job. And, I wasn't fully immersed yet in real estate. And, so the negotiations, we talked a little bit back and forth, and we just said, you know what, this is a lot of heavy lifting. It's been neglected for a long time. It's going to need a lot. And we just couldn't really come to terms on it. So we just let that settle. and we really just kind of walked away from it. Not in a bad way. We just couldn't come to terms, and we just kind of, negotiations died. We walked away and said that's probably it. But it didn't die in our mind. So later on in that year, the end of 2017, at my job, I'd been at my job for around 23 years, like I said at this time. And like any job, there was just kind of a difference of opinion. And I just kind of didn't agree with my boss on a certain point about something, and he was coming to, we were going to have a conversation about it. So you know how that feels. So I'm sitting there waiting for that, contemplating my life and, geez, what's going to happen? Just like any job. And right then I got a text message out of the blue, and, I didn't talk to Josh continually. Like I said, at this point, we just, when something was happening, I would touch base with him, pick his brain, whatever. But, at that point I got a text, and I looked down, and it's a picture of a check, and the check was for $640,000, and it said, "My biggest check ever." And immediately I knew I'm in the wrong place. I should not be sitting here. I need to move. I got to get out. And that was it. Right then, I knew I was done. But I didn't know what. I didn't know what to do. So fast forward a few months later, January 15th, I was working for Josh for Epic Property Management as the director of operations, which is what I do now, and manage, oversee 769 units. As of today, 10 of those are apartment complexes, with the largest one being 144 units. Things drastically changed. But I like to go back to, what if I hadn't gone to that meeting? What if I hadn't met him on that day? Where would you be? I don't know, but that is the importance of networking, of going to events, of meeting people, and just constantly moving forward, whether you're reading a book, listening to a podcast, doing something, but, be hungry. And, I like to tell myself I'm always one day closer to closing. I have another closing date in my future. I don't know when it is, but every day that goes by, I'm closer, another day closer to it. And, and every day I got another day to learn and grow. So that's kind of how I look at it. I know there's another building out there. I know there's a closing date. I know I'm going to be signing on that day. I just don't know when it is yet.
It's awesome. I like that. I like that point of view.
Thanks.
So, so you got, let's talk a little bit about that, because you had let it go, and then you kind of walked away, and then you got back to making the LOI. How did that come back into play?
About a year went by at that point, and I think, it was a lot of work, but I think at that point we were a little more not that we weren't involved in real estate, but you just learn and you grow every day, right? And I just continued to do it. So maybe, we got a little more comfortable. Maybe we got a little more like, we looked at this deal and went, there's some value here. We knew it. And we knew there's going to be some heavy lifting, but we thought, okay, where's the perfect deal at? Right? There is no perfect deal. So we thought, if this isn't it, what is? Where's the deal out there in this market that's going to be better than this one? And really, once we kind of started looking at it from that point of view, and fear subsided, and we just said, you know what? Let's go after it again. Let's do it. And we did it. We went after it. We talked to him again. We said, hey, let's, here's the terms. He said, yeah, that sounds great to me. And we gave him the LOI, and then started the long, drawn-out process of purchasing the 20 unit, which we weren't sure we were going to get through that whole 9-month process.
Well, yeah, that's the best part of the story is that that commitment to all the hiccups that you had in that sale. Just really points out that how many people would have given up in that process with I'll let you tell the big points, but with like the taxes and and all the issues that you had. Well, I'll let you go through them, but that was the big part, is just over and over. There was one thing after another on this property, and instead of giving up on it, you just continued to move forward. So that's what I really want to hear and dig into, because I think there's a lot to be learned from that.
Yeah, looking back, it was such a tough process. It took about a month for the LOI, another month for the PSA, purchase and sale agreement, LOI. Like I said, we thought we'd get that a lot quicker. We thought the PSA would come a lot quicker, and it just didn't. But we were dealing with a mom and pop, and it is what it is when you're in that situation. So we got the title work back, and there was an issue with it. And so my wife, Monica, dug into it and found out that, the building had already gone to tax sale. I think it was in March. If I'm not using the correct terminology, I apologize. So the owner had 10 days to come up with $50,000, or it was gone for good, for him and for us. It was over. So we were just struggling. We had to, really let him know that, that this is true. This isn't just us telling you. This is the truth. This is what happening. So with 1 day left to the deadline, I think he ended up paying that $50,000, and that kept the deal alive. So we thought, oh, great. Well, we're still alive. So we were excited. So then we started looking a little more, and there was a lien. There was a mortgage in 2005 that it was paid off, but there was no release of lien, which isn't a big deal. But the company went out of business in 2011, which is a big deal. So now we got a lien on the property, and he contacted his lawyer July 5th, and it took 2 months for him even to bring this to court. Which is what needed to be done. It took 4 months after that. So things just drugged this whole time. So everything that came up, like I said, so it took 2 months just to get it to court. So all this time, every day, we're just waiting and hoping and praying, literally. And then it also took another 6 months. Another 4 months in the court system. So there were quite a few times that, I've told people that Monica and I would sit on the floor, in front of the couch right over here, and we'd hold hands and we'd pray and say, hey, however this is supposed to work out, God, we accept it. We appreciate it just being here. And we really want this deal to go through, but we'll accept whatever it is. So, there are some times that, we were a little discouraged. It was discouraging as well. I felt like we weren't doing anything in that 9 months. We were just waiting for something that might not happen. So it was a tough time, but we got through it, and, we closed January 29th, 2019.
That was awesome. And it's turned out to be a pretty good deal from what I can tell.
Yeah, it has. The more I think about it, just these little things come up. We were at the closing table, and we were probably about 3 signatures away from being done. And, the owner said, wait a minute, the sale price here, why? I thought it was at $650,000. Why is it at $625,000? And we said, you were supposed to, before we got into this, fix the roof. It needed a new roof, new roof, and he was going to do it. That was the deal. So, at the due diligence point, we said, hey, are you going to do this? It was already supposed to be done. And he said, you know what? I'm not going to do it. And we said, that's fine, but we're going to have to take that off the purchase price. So that's why it got down to $625,000. It was $30,000 for the roof. He said he'll give us $25,000 for it. We said, that's fine. There were some, some other things in there too, but You know, he was going to throw in two AC units, and that never came about. But we said that's fine. That's good enough. So that's where that came from. And you know, like I told him at closing, hey, it's been 9 months. I know. You know, it's hard to keep track of everything we've done, but you know, it was you know, documented, and our lawyers and all that, everything was signed. But you know, it just was another fact. We were 3 signatures away, and I'm like, oh my gosh, here it is. We're gonna miss it, you know, and we didn't. And you know, we still have a good relationship with that owner, and he's excited for us, and we're excited for him. You know, because he gets to get out of the deal. It really helped. So it is a land contract deal as well. So we did buy it for $625,000, which we think is a really good deal. Like I said, it needed a lot of heavy lifting. That's why we got it at that price. It was only supposed to have 2 vacancies. Turns out it's got 5. You know, there's a lot of other things in there. You know, there weren't water leaks, there was water running. And there's about 5 faucets we had to change immediately that were running. So, I mean, there's a lot of expenses we think we can cut out just by eliminating things like that. But yeah, it's got a lot of potential. The average rents, I'll use easy numbers, were $500 getting into the deal. We believe we can push them to $650. You know, we'll say a 2-year time frame for that. I like to be very conservative with everything, you know, and I say 650, and I like to use a 10 cap when evaluating. So we also we just got a earnest money deposit, an EMD, for $675. We're signing a lease Monday. We have 3 people that are ready to move into those 5. So no one's signed a lease yet. So we did get an EMD, but I haven't exactly proven the model that it's $675. But again, I like to be conservative, say $650. We do allow pets, so it's a $25 pet fee. So that will be at $700. But you know, so at a conservative 10 cap, we think when we're done with this building, it'll be around 1.1 and change.
Wow, that's a huge value add. So that's spectacular.
Yeah.
And that's at a 10 cap, which, I mean, that's
yeah,
very conservative for sure.
Correct. Yeah, that's like, and again, it's easy math. It's conservative. So if that number, you know, I expect it to be lower, but I just like to focus on that. And you know, right now a 10 cap in this market, you're not going to find it. Not where our building is.
Well, that's very exciting, you know, and I love the story. It's perfect, you know, from the bankruptcy to a very successful multifamily apartment, and you know, what a journey. So what do you see? What are your next steps? Where are you looking to move into?
Well, you know, we made the decision March 2017 that we're strictly going multifamily, which it's ironic because I remember starting out not knowing anything, not having any idea how to grow. And in the summer of 2017, an investor called me and said, "Hey, I'll buy a house for you." You know what I mean? You know, you know, and we'd pay him back at an interest rate. But it's just ironic that, you know, I told him, no, I appreciate it greatly, but we're going in a different direction. So it's just ironic to think, wow, you know, who would have thought when we first started out that somebody would call and say, "Hey, I'll buy a house for you," out of the blue. It's just funny how you progress in this business. I know you've gone through the same thing. But in 2017, we decided strictly multi. We were up to 11 units at one point. We sold 5 of them. We were putting in 90% of our time was on 10% of our units. So we decided to get rid of those 10%. So now we have 6 single families, which we're going to hold, and strictly multi. So what we'd like to do with this building, our options are short-term debt, long-term debt if it qualifies. I'm not sure if it will, but or also to sell it. And our goal is to move into a bigger space. We want something 100 units or more. That doesn't mean we won't go into something 20 unit or so. In this area, something we can manage, because we self-manage. Monica manages, so we might do that. We got a lot of options, but we do want to get into a 100 units or more. We want to put management on site, and to do that, we're going to have to syndicate. So we're going to get a group of people together and purchase apartment buildings. That's our goal. 2017 we started Blue Rock Capital. That's our company, and that's really our plan going forward. Is we're going to grow this business, put our systems in place, and really we're excited to see what we can do.
So those who don't know what syndication is, can you give us a quick overview of how that process would look for you?
Yeah, so I'd be the sponsor, and what we do is basically, to break it down, it's getting a group of people together, and they'd be limited partners, and they would invest funds into a deal, into an apartment deal, and we would be able to purchase that deal. Because I, as an individual, let's say we go after a $10 million apartment complex. I, as an individual, am not going to be able to come up with $4 million to purchase this. So what happens with the syndication is you get a group of like-minded people together, who have the same goals, end game, and you discuss returns, what they're looking to accomplish out of this partnership. And you get them together, pool money together, and they have a limited side to the deal, which means limited risk. There is risk involved besides that, but that's basically what a syndication is. And you take down, a bigger property, one that you wouldn't be able to do on your own.
Yep, that's a perfect explanation. So very good. So if from this deal, can you tell me what was the biggest lesson you learned from this?
I think patience, keeping a positive attitude. I thank my wife for, there's a lot of days it was a struggle, I'll be honest. And, she really kept me upbeat, and we really balanced each other out. So, if she's feeling down, she'd tell me this isn't your day to feel down. And it wouldn't be. And I would step it up and say, you're right. And we'd really, focus on positivity and trying to bring the other one up. But I think staying in the game it is big. I think continuing to grow, I think that's what I took out of it, really.
Well, I definitely believe in you. I think it's going to be exciting to watch you grow to some pretty inspirational sizing. I know it. I predict it today that there will be big things in your future. So
I appreciate that. Thank you.
So how would somebody contact you if they wanted to get a hold of you?
Well, like I said, we got our website. It's bluerockcapital.net, bluerockcapital.net, or you could get in touch with me, Grant at bluerockcapital.net. I'm always up for talking real estate with anyone. Since we've purchased this building, I believe every week we've had somebody new come to the property. I've shown them around. We've talked numbers. People that are new to real estate just want to get involved. I believe that's my way. Somebody helped me out in the beginning and added value to me when they didn't need to. I really didn't have anything to give back in return at that point. But they added value to me. So I feel I want to add value to other people. So, like I said, if anybody ever wants to talk, to get in touch, if you're in the area, we'll show you around the property. It's exciting. We're excited about it. And if I can add any value to anybody, that's what I feel I'm here for.
Well, that's good. I think anybody who does that will be richly rewarded. So I encourage anybody to reach out to Grant. He really is a stand-up guy, and he's right on an amazing track. So
Thank you.
very good. So that's I think that's going to be it. Do you have anything you wanted to add to it?
No, I just appreciate being on the podcast. I know you're doing huge things too, so this is a big accomplishment for me because I know what you're contributing in the real estate space as well. So I know the great things you're going to do. So yeah, I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to have me on this podcast.
Well, thank you. It has been such an honor to have you on here. Like I said, I really see big things in your future, and it's we got a lot of everything is going good for you. So I'm really excited to see it. So thanks. I appreciate you coming on.
Thanks again, Reed. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thank you.